Imagine my surprise when, after 6 straight seasons of no baseball anime whatsoever, that this past spring season we get not just one, but two shows regarding baseball. First one that I saw was Major Second, which is a continuation of the Major series. I'm not going to watch that for a while. The second one that I saw was like way low on my anime list. It was called Gurazeni. I was hesitant to watch it at first. I saw that it had like a really low score after the first couple of episodes. But I also read the synopsis and it looked a lot like this show called One Outs that came out in the mid 2000s. That came out in the early 2000s. Oh, 2008. Wow. And I hate that show. It's really, really obnoxious and annoying and terrible. And Gurazeni looked like it was going to be very similar to One Out just because it had a plot that revolved around money. And to my surprise, I really liked this show. Like, it's not groundbreaking. If I made a top five list, it probably wouldn't make it. But I definitely don't hate this show. This is a show ostensibly about baseball. Really, it's more about trying to achieve financial security in a really volatile marketplace. And it goes out of the way to make sure that the viewer knows that professional baseball is this kind of risky and stupid endeavor to try. Which is really refreshing because there's a romanticism about baseball that comes through in a lot of these shows, especially the ones about high school baseball and trying to chase Koshien. But in a show about professional baseball, I'm really glad that they kind of ditched the romantic aspects and the poetic aspects about baseball and kind of got straight to the nitty gritty of why is everyone here. If you're really into like contracts and trades and like financial situations of teams, and like this show kind of lays it out for you. Every sports show in general usually has to do like the couple scenes at the beginning that explain what's going on, and this one does that, but it's less about the mechanics of baseball and more about how like contracts in the NPB work. For the most part, the people in professional baseball are subsisting on these 1 year contracts that don't really pay more than $100,000 a year, which like is great money for an average working person. But considering that most of these players aren't in the league for more than 5, 6, 7 years, there's really like this limited time that players have to capitalize on their money making potential. That's what drives this main character, and I really like that about him. I actually like a lot of things about him. He's an incredibly likable character. For one thing, he's a lot darker than most characters I see in anime. He also has like curly hair and 5 o'clock shadow at all times. Like, he looks a little bit like me. Like, everyone comes to him for help, and they know they should because he's an incredibly helpful person. He wants to be there for everyone. My roommate likes to describe this show as adult problems, and I think that's really fitting. Like, that's a really good descriptor of what this show addresses. Like, you're not going to get these saccharine and cookie cutter lessons that you would get from other high school anime, for example. Each one of these episodes has like one or two big takeaways and themes to take from, and they're very realistic about what a working person can possibly accomplish when the rest of the world is competing against them. Like, there was one episode where Bonda is receiving advice from someone that he admires greatly, but in the past has burned him with bad advice. And like the lesson that even like people with good intentions can give bad advice, like I haven't seen that yet in anime, and it's really wise. There's another episode where Bonda and a teammate are going out to a restaurant and they're filling up on vegetables and water because they want to take care of their bodies, while the players from the other team that just beat the brakes off of them are doing nothing but eating plates of meat and drinking like goblets of beer. It's trying to say that like there's really no amount of hard work that you can put into your body. There's no amount of self-actualization that you can achieve that can overcome someone who's just so much more talented than you are. Like, I love the like realism of this. Like, this just feels really adult and sane and mature. There's a couple things that I like didn't like about this show. I think the one thing that was kind of annoying was the absence of women. Like, we meet one female character on the very last episode, and I think it's going to be used to tease the next season. Like, she's an interesting character. I just wish I had gotten to know a little bit more about her before. There's a lot of dudes in this show. It's a sports anime. Another thing I really don't like is that the animators really tried to incorporate CGI as much as possible. It just kind of looks static, and like the faces aren't terribly interesting. It just like didn't really work in this situation. This isn't Land of the Lustrous. Like, this is just a, kind of low budget sports anime. After I finished it, I learned that there's going to be a season 2 in the fall, and I'm actually pretty excited about that. Maybe by then I'll put out a proper review about this show, maybe even include season 2 in it. First impression about this show was pretty solid. Like, I'd give it a nice 7 out of 10. Not, fantastic, but certainly a lot better than I thought it would be. How do I end this? I'll get a big 7 flashing across the screen.